Well, good evening, everybody. It is 6:30 and it is Monday, July the 10th, 2023. Welcome to the Cabinet meeting and welcome to the officers who are here to support us. I will welcome anyone who's watching online. I'm not sure whether we have anyone who's watching in, but you never know. And we will follow the agenda as is laid down before you. And at the appropriate time, I will be inviting members of the Cabinet to introduce themselves as part of the preamble to the meeting. So we will start with information exchange from the portfolio holders. This is something that's normally on the agenda of Cabinet. It's an opportunity for members of the Cabinet just to highlight anything that they have done specifically in the previous few weeks to this Cabinet meeting and to subsequent Cabinet meetings. If you want to, I'll just make a start. Obviously, I've had meetings with numerous officers in the first few weeks of the administration, and I want to place on record my sincere thanks for all their help and their patience and the depth of detail that they've given to me as leader of the council. I'm extremely grateful to them. I've also had meetings with two of our MPs, Mr. Costa and Mr. O'Brien, and extremely good meetings. We're not going to agree on everything, but we have agreed that where we are able to work together, we certainly will for the good of the community. And I'm very grateful to both of them for the way that they reacted to the invitation. We are going to be holding meetings with both of them on a regular basis. I think the meeting with Mr. O'Brien was a fairly normal event, but I understand that Mr. Costa's meeting will be something that's been reintroduced because there haven't been regular meetings with the MP for South Leicestershire for a while, but I look forward to having the opportunity of working with them where we can. And I think, like many people, I was wandering around the district over the recent weeks, and I've been very grateful for the reaction that we've received from members of the public. And I don't think I'm going to add any more than that, other than to give each of you the opportunity to introduce yourselves and to make any comments that you wish to make. And we'll start with Councillor Woodywis.
Thank you, Councillor Knowles. Yes, my name's Councillor Darren Woodywis. I am the portfolio holder for environmental and climate change. And in the last few weeks, I've had my first portfolio overview from Elaine Bird and Russell Smith. So we didn't go into too much detail because it's quite a large portfolio. So I just basically know what's under me now. I've also been involved in the Community Safety Partnership. So there's been a couple of meetings. So there's quarterly meetings on that and the domestic violence and abuse side of things. So just give my awareness levels of those up, shall we say. And yeah, just trying to crack on. So that's it from me, really.
Thank you, Councillor Woodywis. Councillor Beadle.
Thank you, Councillor Knowles. Yes, Councillor Paul Beadle, portfolio holder for the corporate brief. I've got my first portfolio holder meeting this Friday, so I'll hopefully have a bit more to say after that. Yeah, thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Beadle. Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Leader. It's been a busy first 7 or 8 weeks or so, I think 7 possibly, since the Cabinet was announced. I've already had a first what we call Revs and Bens, Revenue and Benefits Partnership meeting up at the Coalville offices. That was attended recently. A very interesting fact came out of that, which is that the non-domestic business rates levied on the district increased recently from 50 billion to 59 billion, a massive increase due to increases in business accommodation at Magna Park. So that's quite a notable event for the district. There's been a lot of member training, of which I've partaken in, same as other members, but specifically today was a very good SIPFA-led training course, specifically on public sector finance. I've had 2 portfolio holder briefings, and I've already requested various extra bits of financial information from my head of financial services, and I'll leave it there for now, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Graves. Councillor Knight.
Thank you very much, Councillor Knowles. Yes, so I'm Councillor Jim Knight, and the portfolio holder for Wellbeing. Had my first portfolio meeting last Friday with Rachel Phelps and Julie Clark was there, and I've also met with Steve Nash. He's outlined the housing and homelessness. I've managed to visit 2 new temporary houses that have flats that have come available, and also previous to this I went and visited some new a new development which was rented accommodation, and also the it was part buy part rent accommodation in Harborough. Gradually getting to grips with my portfolio, and been greatly helped by the officers, and would like to yeah, that's it really for now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor Knight. Councillor Gorton.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. Simon Galton, Cabinet Lead for Planning and Enforcement. Yeah, I mean, we've got up to a busy start. We've had 2 meetings, briefing meetings I've had, so that's probably more than anyone, but planning is such a big area. I've attended the first meeting of the Member Advisory Group, the MAG, which, as you know, looks at strategic issues across the Leicester and Leicestershire housing market area. And we've held the first meeting of the local plan task panel. That is probably the most important piece of work that I will be engaged in over the next 2 or 3 years, ably supported by Tess Nelson and her team that came along in fall, I think, file 1, to the first meeting of the advisory panel. So it was great to meet all the officers who'll be working with. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Golden, and thank you for how actively you become engaged in your portfolios. I think that's important. And as I say, I think we all owe a debt of gratitude to the officers for their patience with us and the amount of time they've dedicated to us in actually supporting us. So that's excellent. So we have apologies this evening, which are from Councillor Whitmore. So obviously there is no report from Councillor Whitmore, but I'm sure she will be making comments, because I know she's been involved in several things over the past few weeks. So we'll now move on from topical issues. We move on to questions, and I believe there are no questions, as I understand it. I've certainly not been approached with any. So that is a no item. And then we've got petitions, and again, there are no petitions as far as I know. No. Notices of motion. There are no notices of motion to the Cabinet. So again, there's nothing to talk about on that one. So we'll swiftly move on. On the actual agenda then, apologies for absence. We have an apology from Councillor Whitmore, and that will be duly recorded. And item 2 is declaration of members' interests. Are there any interests that members need to declare? No, none at all. Thank you for that. Draft Cabinet minutes of the 3rd of April 2023. Well, there aren't any members of the previous Cabinet who are sitting on this Cabinet to be able to move the minutes or second them. So we have to take them as a record and note them as duly listed. I'm happy to move that. Is someone happy to second it? Councillor Beadle, thank you. All those in favour? Anyone against? That's carried and noted. Thank you for that. And that moves us on to item 4, which is the Playing Pitch Strategy Review Report. And that's you, Councillor Galton. I don't know whether you want to say a few words first, or whether you'd like the officers to say something.
Well, my understanding is you want me to introduce the report. Is that right?
Yes,
sir?
please.
Okay, happy to do that. Thank the officers for producing a very comprehensive report to support the actual strategy document. So the purposes of this report is to update us as the Cabinet on the outcomes of the strategy that's taken place, and for the Cabinet to seek adoption of the Playing Pitch strategy. This review has been carried out by consultants on behalf of the Council. Chairman, it's a very important piece of work because we need this evidence, particularly with regard to seeking developer contributions for playing pitches and such related facilities. And The strategy review makes recommendations for a number of key sports. You can see those in the report. For those who haven't got the report in front of them that may be watching the meeting, I'll just run through those: football, cricket, rugby union, hockey, tennis, bowls, outdoor netball and rounders. So very comprehensive. As I say, this report basically updates the existing strategy and makes sure that it is absolutely fit for purpose going forward. The district has been split into 3 sub areas for the purpose of the assessment. Central area around Market Harborough, an area to the west focusing really on Lutterworth and Broughton Astley, and then the large rural area to the north of the district. It is largely a technical report, but nevertheless, as I've said, it is a very important report because it provides that evidence for us to seek developer contributions. It provides the evidence and justification to support those requests. There has been consultation both with clubs, neighbouring councils, because obviously people don't necessarily stick to district council boundaries when looking where they might join clubs or play these sports. And the key findings out of here are set out in the report, and it shows that all currently used playing field sites continue to require protection. So personally, I think that's very important. We don't have a surplus of playing pitches, and in some areas we've got shortfalls. That we should seek community use agreements, and that's something we have been doing in recent years. We should do that as a matter of course to secure community use of the site. So obviously a lot of them are run by clubs, but where we can, we would seek public access through community use agreements. And then where pitches are of poor quality, the proposal obviously is to seek to improve them. And then, as I've already said, developer contributions should be sought on all major housing sites to support the provision of outdoor sports. And then, interestingly, the report finds that we, as a district, we need a new 3G artificial turf pitch somewhere in the district. And we need to look for opportunities. I don't know what one of those will cost, and perhaps the officers could advise us on that. I imagine it's not too cheap. But yeah, in conclusion, Chairman, the strategy is very, very detailed, and I believe it will give us the evidence moving forward. It will become a piece of evidence for our local plan, but also for determining planning applications. Thank you, Chairman.
Yeah, okay. Tess, I don't know whether you want to make any comments before I open it up for questions.
Thank you, Chair. Just to pick up on Councillor Galton's comment around the 3G pitch, it is indeed an expensive piece of kit, but clearly a really important piece. So Appendix C provides the costings for the recommendations. And for the 3G pitch, it has been estimated at £10,000 for the feasibility study. The pitch itself, we are looking at £960,000. So yes, indeed, it is a very, very expensive, but really important facility that we're looking at for the district. I'm happy to take any questions. Thanks very much.
I thank you. Thanks, Tess. Has anyone any questions, any points you'd like to raise? Councillor Graves?
Thank you, Chair. It's really some points I just wanted to raise to demonstrate my interest in the financial figures in the report. I raised some queries with Matthew Bills, who very kindly produced a couple of financial summaries. Cabinet members will see from the action plan and also from the historic results in the playing pitch strategy, because obviously it looks backwards, how did we do in the past, and then it projects forward, what are the objectives. It was very interesting is that there's lots of numbers sort of dotted around in different places, so I asked for them to be collated and without having to sort of spread the numbers around the cabinet tables, it's very obvious that football, being the most well supported sport in terms of playing pitches in the district, has done well and continues to have some good objectives for it set for the district in the coming years. It is followed on by other main sports like rugby. There are other sports which sadly don't have so much support from community organisations. There are smaller plans for funding from different sources for cricket, tennis, bowls. They are all represented, but it's very interesting to see the different objectives set by different parts of our community and the willingness to engage with the national bodies and the support given by the national bodies. But suffice it to say, Chair, that I had some very good conversations with Matthew Bills. It was very clear the massive amount of work that has been done, the repeated community consultation that was evident within the report, the repeated consultation with several of the governing bodies. So I'm happy to support this report to go through, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor Graves. Anyone else want to make any comments at all? No? Okay, well, if there are no more comments, Councillor Gordon, I don't know whether you might want to move the recommendations?
Yes, Chairman, I will happily move the recommendations.
Do I have a seconder? That's Councillor Woodywis. Okay, anyone else? Okay, all in favour? Anyone against? That's carried. We then move on to item, well, it's item 2 on the report, so I think it's item number 5 on the agenda, which is the performance quarter 4 22-23, and OK is going to pick this up. This is a report. It basically is regarding the key activities and strategic performance, the main points and the overview, and also there are 2 appendices there which I think we might find interesting. I don't know how much depth we'll go into them, and it covers the 32 key activities. There are a number of comments in there which I'm sure that you'll have picked up on. I looked under, for example, on page 313, which is on 4.2 regarding the performance on planning, and if the performance does not improve in 22, 23, 24, there is a risk of government designation, which is obviously something that is of concern to us. And I know I've spoken to Councillor Galton about this, and he is monitoring it very closely. But rather than me go into any detail on this at all, as I say, it's all there laid out in front of you. Kay, do you want to come in and say a few words for us?
Thank you, Chair. Yeah, just as Chair says that 32 activities. It's the end of quarter four report, but in the strategic performance report, which we talk about in 3.5 forwards, I've also just put an extra column in there that looks at the whole year's performance. So there were 2 targets in there that were red at quarter 4, but were green overall in the whole year. So, for example, if something's 98% for an annual target, just to make it clear that they hit the target at the end of the year. So you wouldn't usually see that, because obviously usually in the report we're just reporting on the quarter, but just because it's the end of quarter 4 report, I wanted to give a year's perspective on that. Happy to take any questions.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on that? I think there's one interesting point which is on page 310, where it actually explains what the indicators cover and about better, same or worse expectations, which is obviously important for us to monitor as we go forward as an administration. Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Chair. Didn't really want to make too many comments, but clearly there's some things to keep our eyes on. Looking at, for example, the re-procurement of the environmental services contract, just things that we're going to really check on every time we see this report.
Thank you, Councillor Graves. Anyone else want to make any comments? No? Well, the recommendation is that this be referred to the Scrutiny Performance Panel for them to consider and comment on the report, which I'm sure they will do in some detail. Would someone like to move that? The Chief Exec's going to move it. No, she's not.
Just we haven't actually got a panel scheduled in because the Scrutiny Commission repurpose their panels. So the panel that you're recommending it to would be much later in the year. So we'll still recommend it. I just wanted to raise the point that it will be significantly later in the year that it gets scrutinised. Thank you, Chair.
Just so the members know, I have spoken to the chief exec about the situation with the scrutiny, because obviously for us, good scrutiny gives good governance, and it's important that the scrutiny panels are there and scrutinising. So it's something I know that she's looking at. Councillor Graves, are you moving this?
I was just going to add briefly, I did discuss that exact same issue with the Section 151 officer today, because as far as I'm aware, the next scrutiny performance panel is February 24. So I expressed a desire to see that much sooner.
You must have been reading my script. Right. So Councillor Graves is moving it. Anyone second it? Councillor Knight. All those in favour? Anyone against? That's carried. We now move on to item 6, which is the Q4 outturn financial performance, and that's over to you, Councillor Graves.
Thank you, Chair. Take pleasure in presenting my first quarter outturn report for the end of last financial year for outturn for Q4. It is a relatively brief report, but there's a lot in it. It has the summary revenue budgets and capital programme for 2022-23 financial year. It also includes revenue outturn and the variance analysis by portfolio, and the variance analysis is overs and unders of 25,000, including the commentary, variances on budget. We've also got a brief review of general fund reserves, some revenue carry forwards, which I'll mention, and the capital outturn and variance analysis. So we have ended the year with the revenue fund being underspent by approximately £4,000. So that's a very accurate ending to the year, and it's explained here a variance of 0.03% to the approved budget. The capital is overspent by £59,000. That's not very much either. Looking into the figures, there are several variances which I would be keen to discuss in Cabinet if anyone was keen to raise specific ones with me, and we can have we can pull them out, or if you like, Chair, I can pull out several of the more significant ones. I'll do that in that case. So once we look, what I will do is go straight to the general fund variance, because that's one of the ones that we're most interested in. And whilst it is overall underspent by £4,000, I'd like to pull out the interest and investment income variance, which is £772,000 positive variance by rising interest rates, which is something we weren't necessarily planning on a year ago. So that is obviously overall good. It's extra money coming in as an extra variance. There are several other positive variances over 100,000. I'm only going to pull out the significant ones at the moment. On the Harbour Innovation Centre, we've also got the Director Finance, ICT and Assets, various variances within there. The recycling and collections, I've asked the officer whether they had any little bit of extra information on that, so I'll come to that in a moment, but there's 166,000 positive variance, which could be unpacked a little more into different categories. The local plan as well, there's a positive variance of £170,000 underspend against budget due to the timing of the local plan. There are several disappointing negative variances. The one that we've mentioned a few times before on corporate savings in terms of staffing structure, that's significant at 400,000. Symington Building makes an appearance. Customer services, car parking is a repeated disappointed one, 246,000. So those are some of the more. Oh, one more on development control of 275,000. So those are some of the more significant variances, Chair. The recommendations is for the Cabinet to consider the financial performance report and comment on the outturn as detailed within the report and associated appendices. But the second point of the recommendation is that we're being asked to approve the revenue carry forwards detailed in Appendix 5, totalling £220,000. I have been through those with officers. I'm personally satisfied with those, Chair. Third one is the Cabinet approves the capital carry forward slippage detailed in Appendix 6, totalling 7 million. Equally, I've gone through that. I'll be happy to take any questions from fellow Cabinet members at this point, Chair.
Right, anyone, any questions at all? I wouldn't mind a bit more information on those two slippage figures, if we may, just for the record, because I know there are 6 items just for the benefit of the tape, really. We're talking about 7,184,000. To defer that to the officers. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Yes, certainly. The revenue budget carry forwards are shown in Appendix 5. That's a total of 220k. It's broken down in that table, but there's nothing. They're all fairly small amounts. So that there's several that make that up, but nothing, as Councillor Graves says, that's particularly of note. The capital amount is shown in Appendix 6. Again, there's a detailed breakdown on the schemes. In terms of capital, we always set a 5-year capital plan. So some of this I would categorise more as a timing difference, shifting from 1 year to another within that 5 years. It's not the same as the revenue budget, which is for one, but what that's that 1 year. This is capital programmes that span more than the
5-year period.
Yeah, the 5-year period, if that makes sense. So we're moving capital budget that we've already approved to the next year. That being said, as soon as we start the next round of budget, we review that capital programme every year as part of budget setting. So as soon as we start that round, we will again review all those, any capital programmes that haven't concluded or completed. There will be a thorough review of those again, and those numbers adjusted accordingly. But this is the move to shift the budget into the correct year, timing wise.
Right.
That
Okay.
that help?
It does. Just wanted for the tape. Councillor Graves.
I would like to just, if possible, Carolyn, could you just explain the 2.4 million proposed slippage on the leisure, open spaces and play? I think we briefly discussed that. Could you just maybe outline the main spending areas that's on? And I don't know if you've got any sort of ratio of allocation between, well, it says here leisure, open spaces and play. So I take it those are 3 specific main areas, just because it's the biggest one. And then following that, Chair, I think because of press reports, we're aware of the housing and homeless scheme slippage on Roman Way.
Yeah. If we can get more detail on that, just for the record, it would be appreciated.
Certainly, I can provide the detailed breakdown after the meeting if necessary, but the leisure, open spaces and play that's summarised in the table, that is a breakdown of some capital schemes related to leisure, some items related to open spaces, including I think cemeteries in that as well, and then the remainder is play equipment. So it is broken, although that's a large number. The original budget was 4.49 million on that, and it is split between those 3 areas.
Okay, and on the Roman Way, we know, of course, that the issue is the amount of money that was allocated for the reworking, refurbishment, call it whatever you will, and the fact that that figure now is it's very insignificant compared to what it might end up costing us. And the officers are doing a lot of work on that at the moment, and they are spending time. And I think we're looking at September, October, when we'll have a full and realistic report there on the figures that are truly reflective of what it would cost us should we proceed with the scheme as it is. And I know that the officers are also looking at alternatives as to what we might consider doing there. Councillor Graves.
Chair, just something important before I forget, and it's really directly related to this report. I just wanted to thank the finance staff, all of whom worked very hard to get back to the original schedule for the production of the end of year financial statements, which is the 31st of May. It's a tough call to produce an entire council set of accounts with the revenue fund, capital account, the EFA statement, of which was on the training course today, which is an extremely complicated statement to get your head around. So I'd be grateful if those thanks would be passed on to the finance staff. Chair, thank you.
Fine. Anyone want to comment? Any more comments at all? Okay. Councillor Graves, do you want to?
Yes, happy to propose this, Chair.
Right, is there a seconder for that? Councillor Galton? All those in favour? Anyone against? No? That's carried unanimously. As I understand it, there are no urgent items that have been put forward to me to consider. And before I do close the meeting, I'd just like to say a note of thank you to the officers, because I think looking at the size of the report we've had in front of us tonight, tremendous amount of work has gone into it on all levels. So we're sincerely grateful for that. So it is 1 minute past 7 and I declare the meeting closed.